I might be wrong, but I think this lipstick is actually managing to make me look even paler than normal, which is quite the achievement. So yeah, we're going to run with it, and I'm just going to look slightly vampiric for today's episode. Hello Pickles, and welcome to episode 18 of the Knitting Vicariously podcast. My name is Caroline. I'm found more commonly across Instagram and Ravelry as dunderknit. I am a knitter living in London, and if this is your first time joining us here on the podcast, a massive hello and welcome to you. I really hope you're well. A brief word of warning up front to say that this is a swearing friendly podcast, and therefore the language does get a little bit colourful at times. If that's not your bag, I totally appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking us out, but this probably isn't going to be the podcast for you. If, however, you're a long-term viewer and you know exactly how colourful the language here is wont to get, then I'm delighted to see you again, and I really, really hope you're well. It's been another busy few weeks, what with obviously work, my day job, and a couple of fun events at weekends. So last weekend I visited Unravel, which was a knitting festival, generally yarny festival down in Farnham, with the fabulous individual that is Hannah of the Corner of Craft. She has already posted her vlog, and therefore I will link to that somewhere here on the screen and in the description box and all of the places all of the time, so that you can go and check that out, because it was wonderful not only to see her, to meet her in person for the first time. We'd spoken a little bit back and forth before then, but it was fantastic to meet her in person and to tour the festival with her and just generally have a great old natter and a catch up. So I would totally recommend, one, checking out her vlog, because it's great to see a different perspective on a couple of days, but also just Hannah's such a fantastic person. I would so recommend you go over, you spend a little bit of time with her, and I promise you that you will enjoy it heartily. So yes, thank you so much to Hannah for coming over and visiting. There will be quite a bit of the vlog footage that I took last weekend, as well as a bit of a post-festival recap and stash flash later on in this week's episode. I contemplated splitting the two out, but given I think I might be a little bit light on content this week, I figured why not just smush the two together and have some sort of wonderful knitting yarny smorgasbord of goodness. So yeah, that's the way that we're going to work it. So yes, Unravel last weekend, and then just a few weekends to go until Edinburgh Yarn Festival, EYF, and I am so excited. Not least because it's a trip back home for me, but also because it's a chance to meet up with wonderful knitty friends, both near and far. And in particular, some of the friends that are coming over from the US or a little bit further afield. I'm so excited to be seeing you and catching up with you there. I mentioned on the previous episode that I'm going to be there all 3 days of the festival, and well, certainly the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday. I don't have a ticket for the Sunday event, I don't have tickets for the evening events, but I'll certainly be there during the day. So if you do happen to see me there, it would be wonderful to say hi. And yeah, as I mentioned, I will probably hug you. If you're not in for that, that's fine. Just kind of general body language to be like, nah, you're good. But otherwise, I'm probably going to go in for the hug, just so we're both clear on that. And on the subject of Edinburgh Yarn Festival, those of you who've been watching the channel since the start or close to it will know that not long after I started the podcast, I visited the US. I went to Rhinebeck last October, and it was the most fabulous trip. And while I was out there, in keeping with the whole idea behind Knitting Vicariously, I wanted to make sure that I was able to bring a little bit of Rhinebeck to perhaps some of you who weren't able to attend in person. And so I put together a prize package and giveaway and added a prompt over in the Knitting Vicariously group on Ravelry, which you will find linked in the show notes below, as well as by searching for Knitting Vicariously in the groups tab on Ravelry. We have a fabulous Ravelry group that is full of just truly wonderful individuals who spend a lot of time talking about their vicarious projects, their yarns that they want to be working with. We have a group that's a forum post that's dedicated to people who've never knit a sweater before and are looking for a little bit of help or advice around that. It's a fantastic group, and I would highly recommend you checking it out. But yes, I posted a thread back there last year around Rhinebeck and said, if you're not able to attend, what are you planning to do in the next next couple of days just to kind of bring the spirit of Rhinebeck or kind of the joy of knitting over that period of time. And we had a huge number of entries, which was wonderful, and I used random number generator to choose a winner at random and sent a prize package over to them. I would like to do the same thing for EYF, so for those of you who are not able to attend EYF in person this year, I will be opening a new thread in the Ravelry group with the aim of helping you win a little bit of EYF. I'll be picking a few things up when I'm up there later on this month, and those will go into a giveaway package for you. And so there'll be a prompt in that thread. It'll probably be something similar to what we had for Rhinebeck, which is to say that if you're not able to attend in person, what are you planning to do to just kind of get yourself into the knitting spirit of things or yarny spirit of things that weekend to try and experience it vicariously. And so if you would like a chance to win a giveaway, I'll be posting some updates as to what's going into it while I'm there later on this month, and so do feel free to enter over there. Those of you who've been watching the podcast for a little while will know that I'm currently running a bi-weekly podcast schedule. That's to say every other week is when I'm filming and uploading a podcast. I was hoping to get back to weekly a little bit sooner than this, but I think I'm going to be continuing on the every other week schedule for the foreseeable future. Part of that is down to just the full-on nature of the day job and still not having quite enough time to crank through projects in the evenings in the way that I was previously, but also I have got a few bits and pieces coming up at weekends going forward, and so I think this is probably a schedule that's going to work better for me. I hope you're okay with that, and obviously if I'm able to change it at some point in the future, I will of course let you know. But yes, certainly with some of the knitting events that I've got coming up, it feels as though it's going to be a full-on few weeks anyway, so I'll be bringing you as much content as I can during the next few months. And so on the subject of content, let's get right into it. As ever, you will find show notes for this week's episode in the description box below, as well as over in the Ravelry group, which is, as I mentioned, the Knitting Vicariously podcast group. I have specific threads for each and every episode where you can find links to pretty much everything that I talk about there. We also have kind of discussions around the episodes in particular, and so those are a great one to check out. I also have the Knitting Vicariously Instagram account, which is specific to the podcast itself, and again I post new posts for every episode, and including some links and some Instagram handles and hashtags that are relevant. And so if that is your stalking mechanism of choice, I highly recommend that you pop over there and give us a follow there too. But without any further ado, let's get into it. So I will start off with what I'm wearing, and what I'm wearing is a sweater that those of you who were over on Unravel may have seen me wearing last week, and this is my Carpino sweater by Carol Feller. I'll put a picture of it up here on the screen so that you can take a look. This is a design by Carol Feller, who's a fabulous designer. It is knit and fingering weight. It was actually previously published in an edition of Brooklyn Tweed's Wool People back in the day. I feel like it was round about issue 4? Close-ish, issue 6. So this was published in Wool People back in 2013, which feels like a very long time ago now. But yes, it is a fabulous sweater, and I will stand up and give you a quick twirl. And here you have it, Carpino boobs. Yeah, this has thrown the white balance off my camera rather dramatically, so it's blowing everything out right now. But this is the Carpino sweater by Carol Feller. It is a really lovely pattern. You can see that it has the eyelet lace here on the front panel, and then the back and the sleeves are knit in plain stockinette. There is a little bit of twisted rib here on the edging of both the sleeves and the hem of the sweater itself, and I'm standing far enough back that you can actually see where it finishes for a change. So yes, this is a really lovely sweater. It has some raglan shaping here. Move my hair out of the way. At the neckline, you can see as well that it is a very simple rolled hem at the neck. In fact, I think it's a little bit of an I-cord neckline here, so it doesn't roll too much. There's a tiny bit of a roll to it, but not much at all. And then there were some added notes that I used for short rows just to raise the neckline up a little bit at the back. If I turn around and move my hair, you should be able to see that. And yeah. So yes, this is Carpino. As I mentioned, it is a fingering weight sweater. I think this might actually be the first fingering weight sweater that I ever knit. So yes, it's a really, really lovely, lightweight, perfect for this sort of weather, somewhat transitional in between sweater, and I really enjoy it. It is a beautiful colour, and full credit for that has to go to Wollmeise. I knit this in Wollmeise Blend, which is allegedly a sport weight, but I'll come back to that in a second. It is their MCN base, so it is merino cashmere and nylon, and this is in the dunkle Kirsche colorway, which is the dark cherry colour, and it's perfect. It is the most beautiful kind of deep cherry raspberry colour, and I absolutely adore it. I will say Blend from Wollmeise is one of my favourite. It's probably my favourite of their yarns, certainly, but it's such a beautiful yarn to knit with. It comes in fairly massive yarn skeins, as you would expect from Wollmeise. In fact, let me grab one just to show you. So here we go. I have a skein of Blend here, and it is absolutely stunning. So it is a 70-20-10, so 70% merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% polyamide, so nylon, and it's just beautiful. This is in the Tauben Hyacinthe colorway, which is a grape hyacinth, so they do have some of their variegated colours in Blend as well, but yeah, the yarn itself is really beautiful. And what I will say is it actually hasn't pilled too badly either. There is a little bit of pilling that's happening, sort of particularly here on my underarms, and obviously where you would expect, where there's a little bit of friction, but no more than certainly I would have seen with a merino blend on its own. So I'm pretty impressed with how this is wearing. Yeah, I'm just in love with this sweater. My only slight hesitation and reservation about it is that because it is an all over lace panel front, it does mean that there is a bit of an obvious issue when it comes to wearing something underneath. Now, if you choose not to, then more power to you. I am all supportive of your life choices generally. I don't really feel like I can get away with it. It doesn't really feel comfortable to me. And so I know that I always need to wear something underneath it just for the purposes of modesty and dignity, as opposed to just going like kind of bra and nothing else. But what I will say is obviously it does mean that you need to think about some of the undergarments that you're intending to wear with it. I favour camisoles, tank tops, whatever you want to call them, underneath a lot of my sweaters, and this one is no exception. But obviously it does mean that you can see perhaps even more vividly on camera than you can do perhaps when you would see me in real life. You can see that there's quite a distinct kind of obvious, here is my t-shirt view to it. Now, I could go out and try and find a t-shirt that sits exactly in at the neck, but of course if it does, it might sit a little bit kind of out here beyond the neckline, which is a little bit on the wide side. It's not too bad. It doesn't sort of show straps too badly, but yeah, it's all these things to think about. It's very complex. So I could get a slightly higher neck t-shirt, or I could just kind of live with the fact that I've got this kind of fairly distinct join between kind of t-shirt and boob area, or upper boob area. Not quite boob area here, that would be shelf. But yeah, so it's definitely something that I do think about when I'm wearing this. But I knit this sweater as part of an impromptu sweater knit along with a few of my friends from my knitting group up in Buckinghamshire, and we all looked to try and get Carpinos off our needles in reasonably quick time. Now, I think from memory, I think a few of us succeeded in binding them off, but I'm not necessarily sure that we were all entirely thrilled with the results. I'll confess to being entirely delighted with mine, not to rub it in too much. I know that some of the others who knit them, there were some issues with sizing or with yarn choices. I think the original version of the Carpino was knit in Bahram used Titus, which is a 4-ply yarn, which is a little bit woolly, and I think because of the close-fitting nature of this sweater, particularly up here at the neckline, I think a couple of folk perhaps weren't quite so comfortable with having something that was a little bit more sort of woolly, not quite rustic, but a little bit more woolly, kind of sitting quite so closely, and so I will confess that with the MCN blend here, I have no qualms about that whatsoever. It is absolutely 100% next to skin soft, and I'm not wishing to rub it in to those of you who knit it in other yarns, but I really do love this sweater. In fact, I love it so much that not long after finishing it, I immediately cast on another. It's still in a bag somewhere. I'm pretty sure I'm past the sleeve separation and kind of just on like sort of mid-bust length. I have a bit of a tendency to do this, which is if I get quite obsessed, and obsessed is maybe a stretch, if I'm really enjoying working on something and I get into the rhythm of it, I get into the flow of it, do you have that feeling that kind of when you're finished, you miss that kind of knowing exactly what you're in for, knowing kind of where you're up to with it? There's a real kind of comfort that comes from having something and getting it off the needles and kind of going, ah, that's exactly what I wanted. And then just feeling slightly bereft that you don't get to work on it anymore. I think I get that sometimes, and it kind of prompts me to want to cast on another version. But of course, then what happens is I lose steam halfway through and start looking at other things instead. So we've talked about the number of works in progress that I have, and yeah, this is definitely linked, shall we say, in terms of that. But at the same time, I was thinking again quite recently I might dig that out again and pick it up, because it's in the same yarn, it's in the blend from Wollmeise, but it's in the Moses colorway, which is a beautiful kind of navy teal. And I can see it being a real wardrobe staple. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'll still have this issue at the front, but that being said, I've been enjoying wearing this so much recently that it would be great to have another version of it back in my wardrobe. So that might be one that I'm going back to in the not too distant future. But otherwise, yeah, it's great. I knit I think it's the size 42¼ inch, I think. Which, as we've mentioned about here, I'm fairly open about my bust sizes. My bust size is a little bit larger than that, so there's definitely a little bit of negative ease in the sort of stretch of the garment here. But that being said, I think it's a really, really nice fit. I mentioned that the Wollmeise blend is listed as a sport weight, and I'm going to be very honest, I don't think it knits up as a sport weight. For me, this knits up as a fingering weight pretty accurately. In terms of the gauge that they offer, well, they don't offer a specific gauge on the yarn itself, but they say they would recommend between a 3 and a 3.5mm needle, which is let's think, it's between a sort of US kind of 1.5 to a 4, I think. So 1.5 or 2, maybe a 2 to a 4. So yes, there's certainly, it feels like quite a lightweight yarn to be a sport weight. So for me, this knit up perfectly at gauge for Carpino, and this is the same yarn that I'm using for the second one, so both of those work really nicely for me. I'm pretty sure the second one I'm knitting the same size, so I would expect it to fit in a fairly similar fashion. But yeah, it's otherwise a really lovely pattern. There were a couple of new to me techniques when I was going through it. I think one of them was, I think it used a cable cast on for the neck. Now, I've talked more recently about how for hats the alternating cable cast on is a go-to for me, but I think this is the first time that I did a cable cast on for the neck of a sweater, which was great. As I mentioned, I did some short rows for just to raise the neckline at the back up a little bit further. I don't think they were necessarily new to me, but they were fairly recent. And then obviously just the all over lace pattern at the front. It does require a little bit of concentration just to make sure you know which row you're on, but at the same time it's quite intuitive, so you can spot if you're doing something wrong in that you've got your eyelets happening every other row and then the plain rows in between. So yeah, it's a lovely, very meditative pattern. Don't be scared off by the fact that it's a fingering weight. They still knit up pretty quickly for me, and so I would recommend it on those grounds. And not least because I wore this sweater to Unravel last weekend. There was a spot of continuity that I thought I'd pick up on in my Unravel vlog, but I did have quite a lot of compliments on this jumper, for which I'm always very grateful. Even with one person whose opinion I value immensely, and that is Ellie of Skeyndeer, saying that she thought it looked a little bit store-bought, which I am never averse to hearing, so thank you, Ellie. That was a delightfully just flattering compliment. I really appreciate it. But no, I love this sweater, love the yarn that I used, and would highly recommend that you try it for yourself if you're in the market for something similar. And so let's move along into some actual knitting. I have no finished objects once again this week, and I think if I look back at how many objects I've finished this year to date, the answer is going to be pretty shameful. So I am trying to focus on being quite monogamous on projects, getting a few bits done, and just trying to up my knitting content at the moment, because I'm certainly feeling the pressure, not only of just trying to get a few things finished, but also EYF is not far away at all, and I do want to make sure I get a couple of things out the way before I head on over there. But one of the projects that I've been working on again this week that I showed in a previous episode is my starting point shawl by Joji Locatelli. I'll put a picture up here on the screen for you to see it. It is a beautiful shawl, as I mentioned last time. It was released as a mystery knit along, and this is a shawl that I've picked up. I think I started it after the mystery was finished, so yeah, spoilers aplenty by that point, but it is a shawl that I'm really enjoying working on. I put it aside for a very long time. I've since picked it up again, but I haven't got too much further on with it, I will say. That being said, the section that I'm on, it goes rather slowly, so I'm going to hold up the half that I'm working on at the moment. I showed this last time round when I spoke about this project on the podcast, but I have this half of my starting point that I'm working on just now. You start here at this panel and start to increase outwards until you get to the full width of the scarf or shawl itself, and then you have increases and decreases in the center that keep it the same width the whole way across, but working in the different colors and the different textures as you go. The section that I'm working on at the moment, it is the twisted rib section, and if I hold it up here and the camera focuses, you will see it starting to come to life. It is lovely. It looks really very nice and neat. I love a bit of twisted rib, but it is an absolute bastard to knit. And the reason for that is that twisted rib, this is a version of twisted rib where it's twisted on both sides, so I'm not only knitting through the back loop, I'm also purling through the back loop. And knitting through the back loop is fine, I can do that reasonably quickly. Purling through the back loop not only requires a little bit more attention, it takes me quite a bit longer. I can't always kind of focus on other things, or perhaps not look quite so closely at what I'm doing. I need to be fairly kind of focused and kind of going through it as I go. So yes, it's taking a little while. I think I've done, let me just check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got a further 6 rows of this to go. So yeah, a little bit sloggy at the moment, but I'm looking forward to spending a little bit more time working on this. I will show you the other half just so you can see what more I need to do on this section before I then switch it out. So this is the other side here. It is, as you'll see, starts in the same way at the bottom. Well, it'll be this side instead. So starts the same way. Here is the twisted rib section here, so there's not too much further to go. If I hold it up, you can see I've got the twisted rib section, I've then got this wonderful lace section here, and finally some eyelet rows there too. And I went through all the yarns last time round, but just so we're clear, I kept calling this concrete. It's not concrete. This is Hedgehog Fibres Skinny Singles in the Construct colourway, not concrete. And then I have this very pale colour, which is the same colour I'm using for the twisted ribbing here, which again is Hedgehog Fibres. This is the Teacup colourway. I've got this fabulous kind of slightly off cream, slightly blush pink colourway with some beautiful speckles. This is Woolen Boon Skinny in the Buffy colourway, momentary mind blank there. I've then got this section which is in Vine Nouveau colourway in her I Am No Bird colour, which is one of my favourites. And then if I scoot back along here, there is this section which is Madeline Tosh, pretty sure it's Tosh Merino Light, in the Court and Spark base as well. So yes, continuing to do some more work on this. I am hoping that I'm going to have at least the other panel finished in time for EYF. So again, as I mentioned last time, you've got two sort of ends, if you like, of the shawl that are both, I want to say sort of like V-shaped in the centre. So you've got the kind of two panels that then meet here, and then you pick up the edges on either side of the bottoms of those V's to create the full rectangular wrap. So I'm hoping to have the other kind of half section finished and then maybe pick up some stitches and take that with me for a little bit of kind of more focused knitting. Yeah, we'll see how that goes, but really enjoying how this is working up. Continue to love the yarns. Thank you so much to those of you who commented saying that they really loved the colours I'd chosen. Yeah, they're beautiful together. I'm really, really pleased, and hopefully I'll have this a little bit further along next time. I seem to be going through a little bit of a phase of picking up whips at the moment. So again, I've mentioned, I am no stranger to whips. I have quite a few of them, whips being works in progress, where they are things that I have cast on at some point in the past, knit on, sometimes furiously, for a few weeks at a time, and then maybe put them to one side with the intention of coming back to them at a later date. And magically, that later date for at least one other project has materialised, because I have recently picked up a slightly older whip. It is living in this beautiful bag. This is by a British Etsy seller who is Betsy Makes. I believe she also has a podcast, so I'll make sure that I link that in the notes section down below. But I have a few of these bags by her, and I'm sure I've raved about it previously as well. This is in a beautiful hand-dyed woven fabric. It has a fabulous little rose pink, rose gold zip at the top there. It's lined beautifully. Oh, giving away what's in here. It's lined beautifully. It's lovely and soft. It is a perfect sweater-sized bag, and so yeah, highly recommend bags by Betsy Makes. I think she dyes yarn as well, which is beautiful, so definitely worth you going and checking her out. But yes, the project that I have picked up again, because again, this is a fingering weight sweater and it feels like something that would be perfect for the upcoming springtime months, is my Zweig pullover. And I've got a lot of German terminology going on this week, so yeah, enjoying that tremendously. But this is my Zweig here, and it is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I'll put a picture of that finished object up here on the screen, but again, I suspect you will have seen it. If you've been around on Instagram or on Ravelry for a little while, this was a wildly popular pattern last year, and maybe even the tail end of the year before. But this is my version of it that I was working on a little while ago. I've since picked up and done a little bit more around the body itself, but there's definitely more that I want to do and work on with this sweater. So I am knitting this out of a couple of colours by the ladies at the Hey Sister Yarn Co podcast, and the yarns that I'm using of theirs, both bases are the Geronimo sock base, which is their 80/20 high twist merino nylon sock yarn. And the colourways I'm using, the fabulous, I mean, come on, it was inevitable. The fabulous gold colourway that we have is their Drizzle colourway, and the blue is Can't Take the Sky From Me. And those of you who were watching the previous podcast know that I've got a bit of a thing for light blue at the moment, and this is not the end of it, so stick with me on that. But yes, I loved these colourways together. The Can't Take the Sky From Me does actually have a couple of speckles that speak to the Drizzle, which is partly why I wanted to use them together. If I hold this up to the camera, and I encourage the camera gently to focus, I'm again working with slightly different lighting. It's a rubbish, crummy, rainy day over here, so apologies for that. But you should be able to see there's a couple of speckles in the blue section that look very, very similar. Sort of one just, ooh, let me get to it, one just here that line up with the gold of the Drizzle. And in fact, even the Drizzle itself, you should be able to see, has some beautiful variegation to it. There's some red in there. It's just such pretty colours. So yes, it is a fabulous pattern by Caitlin Hunter, who is Boyland Knitworks over on Instagram. There's a beautiful kind of lace and twisted rib section here at the yoke, and then for the rest of the body they use, or she uses, these beautiful little textured stitches, the little textured crosses. I will be doing those. It means it's not wholly mindless, I will say that. With every few rows you're just having to do a few little kind of faux cable crosses, but it gives it a really lovely texture to it, and I would love to have this done for EYF. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm picking it up again. I'm enjoying knitting on it. We'll see how far I get with it, but it would be perfect for EYF in that it's the perfect kind of transitional weight, if you like. So yeah, we'll see how I go with it. The size that I'm knitting is the extra large, which is a chest measurement of 48 inches, I believe. That should give me a fair bit of positive ease. Certainly with the lace at the yoke, you don't necessarily want it to be too tight, otherwise you risk getting into this territory again. but you want it to be a little bit loose fitting based on some of the pattern pictures that she has available. So I reckon this should be about right. My gauge is pretty good. I am using, because I always do, my wonderful Chow-Gu needles. I'm knitting the body on 3.75 millimeters, which is a US size 5. And yeah, really enjoying working on this. Part of it is obviously my love of all things gold, and here is Drizzle, just so you can see it a little bit better. Drizzle itself is such a beautiful colourway. You can see some little hints and speckles of red coming through there as well, but no, I really love this colour, and obviously it's gold, so you know, it was inevitable. It certainly feels appropriate that for EYF I should be wandering around in a gold sweater. I feel like that would make me more kind of obvious, but get very on brand if nothing else. So we'll see how far I get with this. I certainly can't promise I'm going to have it done when EYF is just a matter of, you know, kind of a little bit over 2 weeks away. It feels like a push, but I'll see how I go with it, and worst case I'll end up taking it to work on anyway. So yeah, there is my Zweig. I mentioned I would come back to the light blue debacle. So as I mentioned on the previous episode, I had been seriously contemplating some yarn from Drops. I bought some Drops Air back in the eons of time in a beautiful light blue colourway, this one here, and was trying to work out whether or not it was a colour that I would be able to carry off. Now, we know that I've had a mint green debacle here in the past. Those of you who've been here for a while will be very aware of the fact that I have I've got a great love for mint green, but the mint green, it does not love me. And so there was a little debate as to whether or not I thought perhaps this would fall into the same camp. So thank you so much to everyone that gave me your thoughts around it, both positive and what the fuck are you doing, Caroline? Which, I mean, I understand, I appreciate where you're coming from. I genuinely appreciate the concern. I know that, you know, in general, a lot of the colours behind me are jewel tones. It's what I tend to stick with, but for some reason this was just really getting into my head, and so I did have a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of a wibble around it. But I think what I'm going to do, to all of you that said just step away from it, don't do it, what the hell are you thinking, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. But I couldn't resist it, and so yeah, I have cast this on. I am working on it, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. I'm prepared that if this goes to absolute shit, you know, don't worry about it. I'm not going to make you take responsibility. You're free at length to tell me that you told me so. I will take it and I'll suck it up, I promise. But yeah, I have I couldn't. I'd had to. I want it to work. I really want it to work. Maybe not with the lipstick. I think the lipstick is probably killing it right now. But I'm genuinely quite excited about this. You'll see that I'm so excited I've done a fair bit of working on it. So let me tell you a little bit about the pattern before I go too much further. This is actually a pattern by Petite Knit, and I'm going to put it up on the screen in a second, but I'm also going to say up front that I knew I wanted something quite simple with this. I was contemplating, do I knit it up as another no frills, which is a pattern that I really love and I enjoy working with, but the gauge wasn't quite right. I could have done some maths around it. I could have, you know, looked at my gauge and started to work out what I needed to do differently from the pattern. But I was having one of those nights where I'm like, you know, I don't really want to do any thinking. I mostly just want to do doing. So I started to have a look at some of the other patterns that she has that were knitting up at a similar gauge to what I was expecting with this yarn, and came across one called the Scotty sweater. So let me put a picture of that up here on the screen, and you will notice something about it rather immediately, which is to say that it's a beautiful pattern, but there are some duplicate stitch additions in here. So to make it look a little bit more like a sort of faux tartan or a check pattern, she's added some rows of duplicate stitches, and I don't think I'm going to be doing that for this sweater, but what I really liked about it was the shape, the fact that it was a set-in sleeve construction, the fact that it had a really nice neckline to it, and the shape was just what I was after. So I ended up purchasing and using that pattern, albeit without probably any of the duplicate stitching that's going to be happening later on. And here's where I'm at with it. So I'm doing reasonably well, as you can see. You cast on, because it is a set-in sleeve pattern, you actually cast on across the back here first. If I turn that inside out, you'll see that there is a seam here where I've picked up the additional stitches, because what you do is you cast on across the back, you knit, oops, here we go, you knit back and forth across the back for a little while and get to the bottom of the sleeve separation with some increases. You then go back and you pick up the stitches for the front section on one side and the front section on the other side before eventually joining here and again knitting down to the front of the sleeve section. So down to here. Once you're there, you then start to knit it all in the round, and as you can see, I am on the body section now, and I'm really enjoying the simplicity of this. The yarn itself is lovely and soft. I mentioned last time round, it is a blend of Suri alpaca and some polyamide as well. It's a kind of luft-like construction, so woolfolk luft is very similar, where you have the kind of chainette section in the centre and then kind of the soft floofiness blown through that chain section. Hold it up there so you can see. The colourway for this is blue, it's nothing too exciting to look for, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It is lovely and soft. One thing I do want to mention though, so this is yarn from Drops, who are part of the Garn Studio group. One very kind commenter on the previous episode, who is Christine from Norway, pointed out to me that there is quite a bit of controversy surrounding the Drops group at the moment. Drops have a very unhelpful habit of releasing designs that are incredibly similar to other designs that have been released by independent pattern designers. She mentioned that there is a hashtag associated with this over on Instagram, which is Drops, so DROPPADROPS, which I will of course link both here and on the Instagram pages for this episode. And so I do want to make it clear that this is yarn that I've had in my stash for a very, very long time. Obviously, if this does end up being the case and there are a few more similarities than I think anyone is genuinely comfortable with, then that's not really a business practice that I support at all. And so while I am using stash yarn for this purpose, frankly, there is plenty of other yarn that you could buy and choose that would help you to knit pretty much an identical sweater to this. Whether that is Woolfolk itself, which is a little bit on the pricier end of things, or whether it's just a yarn that happens to be a good kind of lightweight Aran weight, I think, you know, there's no reason to go about supporting a business that has some questionable business practices. And so, yeah, thank you very much, Christine, for opening my eyes to that. It was something that I think I'd heard mention about it from a patterns perspective, but obviously hadn't necessarily assumed in my head that the two were linked. And so yeah, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And while I'm knitting with the stash yarn, that's all well and good, but certainly going forward I will continue to be a little bit more studious in my buying and purchasing habits. So yes, just one to bear in mind. But certainly at the moment this is a good bit of mindless stockinette. I will confess I'm knitting it up on 5mm needles, so it is going reasonably quickly. Again, of course, Chowgu needles, my go-to for pretty much everything, but particularly sweaters. They're 5mm, which is a US size 8. And so that's it for actual knitting this week. When it comes to vicarious knitting, it's a little bit different, because I will say over the last couple of weeks my vicarious knitting mojo has been fueled almost entirely by last weekend's trip to Unravel. So what I think I'm going to do is, for the next chunk of this week's episode, I'm going to include some of the footage that I took while I was over there with Hannah from the Corner of Craft, as well as a cheeky little stash flash video that we filmed retrospectively the morning after. And I will say it is the same video that appears over on her channel, albeit taken from a slightly different angle, so you'll see a bit less of my elbow and a little bit more of kind of me trying to position things around and show things. If you've seen it on her channel already, by all means you have my absolute blessing to go ahead and skip it, but there's a little bit more extra footage around the festival itself, and yes, I will include that here. So I'm going to hand back to past Caroline to share that with you now. Pickles! Hi! You have double trouble for today. Hannah and I, Hannah who is the Corner of Craft,
hello,
who you may well recognise in her fabulous so faded jumper. It's so pretty. We are heading off for a day at Unravel today.
I've never been before, I'm very excited.
And I am an old hand at this, having been many times before, having brought back
my guide.
many skeins of yarn before. But yes, we are heading off for the day. We'll take you along for the ride, and hopefully you'll see some of the yarns that we squish and maybe even bring home to give a good home to yarn. Adopting, that's what we're doing. Not shopping.
Yeah.
We made it, we're here.
We're here.
We have parked, we have snacks on hand, and we're going to go and do a little bit of yarn squishing and shopping.
I'm so excited. I don't want to vlog the
Look who it is!
Hello!
Look at the booth. Look at how pretty the booth is.
Look at my sock rainbow. My sock rainbow in.
I might have taken a little cheeky bit of footage of that earlier.
Hey.
And you were elfless right now.
I am elfless.
That's what happens when elves have social lives.
I know, she went to go and get some food, bless her. She's complaining she didn't get a day off till next weekend. I know. It's not my fault.
No, of course not.
Hi!
Look who's here. I can't see who's here.
Seen me a few times.
This is true. done. We're done. We're out. And it is starting to get dark, which is a good sign. There have been some purchases. There have been some purchases. And we will take you through said purchases a little bit later on.
I just want to add, blame dunderknit is a hashtag because of everything she's showing online. But you know what? It's real in person as well. I bought more than I intended to because of this fantastic lady. Just saying. Blame dunderknit in real life is an actual thing.
I mean, that is possibly one of the greatest compliments I've ever received.
You're welcome. I do my best.
We'll show you later.
Yay! We've got 2 cameras going on. So we're going to be looking both at you and at you at different intervals because we didn't want to film this twice. I hope that's okay.
No, it's going to be like visual stereo.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to see this in a different, make sure you check out each other's videos depending where you're watching this.
And to that point, this is Hannah. Hannah is of the Corner of Craft podcast, stitch markers and yarny extraordinaire.
I do my best.
She does excellent.
And this is Caroline, aka Dunderknit, and the hostess of the Knitting Vicariously podcast.
And we're in situ as well.
I'm on set. It's real. It's real. It's not a green screen. It's all real.
It's not. It's not. It's 3D and everything.
It's amazing. It's much better in 3D. Much recommend.
So yeah. So yesterday we were at Unravel. Today we are a little bit hoarse and a little bit eye baggy, mostly down to dehydration.
I also think I've caught a cold somehow at some point.
It's not me. I didn't have one.
I leave the house and then I'm ill. What is this? Like...
But it was a lovely, lovely day. And we got to meet a bunch of amazing people, both folks that we know before in terms of like podcaster friends, but also new to us people. Is that what we call them?
New to people.
New to people. People that we had not met before or had only met online and got to hug and squish in person, and that was delightful.
So much fun. It was good. It was a good day.
Now, given it was your first Unravel, how did you find it? How is it compared?
So, my first yarn festival was Edinburgh Yarn Festival.
Which is a high bar to set.
Yeah, I went big. I would say it's on par in regards to the amount of vendors there.
Fair. It's a big festival, Unravel.
It's huge. I was not expecting it to be such a big festival. And then I kept seeing people on Instagram posting that they were there. I was just like, how are there so many people? But it's much more spread out.
Yes.
And therefore less...
concentrated.
Slightly claustrophobic feeling.
Yes. So the funny thing with Unravel is it's held in a Maltings building, which is a kind of arts and crafts style building that has lots of different rooms, lots of different sort of smaller venues within it, and it just means that there are lots of different spaces. But I swear the first few years that I went, I wasn't totally sure that I'd seen everything.
Yeah.
Because you always figure out there's a room that you haven't seen or a bit of a room that you didn't quite get to because you went one way round and you missed a bit. And
it's like rooms off of other rooms leading to other rooms. And then it's... If I didn't have Caroline with me, I would have got lost because my sense of direction is non-existent and it's kind of like a really fun maze.
It is. It's a yarny maze.
Yeah, and is not complaining.
No, and so during our time in that yarny maze, we did fairly well. We had a first loop that was almost a complete loop without purchases. Yeah. And then we fell down a little bit. But we got back up and made more purchases.
And they were all good purchases. Not that there would be bad ones, but...
There's zero regret.
Zero regret, because why live your life with regrets when you can, you know, have goals like this? Seriously. And yeah, so shall we have a look through? Sure!
Well, I'm going to start off with a very, very quick one, which is... Hannah is staying with me at the moment. And Hannah, as I've mentioned, is a yarn dyer and stitch marker maker extraordinaire. And... despite not having to do this in the slightest, that is not a prerequisite of staying shade underknit, Hannah was so kind as to gift me this skein of amazingness, which is frankly just, I mean, I'm very on brand today. Very on brand.
I mean, I saw it and thought, that would go with gold.
It's not as though you typecast me at all.
No.
And it's not as though it's entirely accurate.
No.
And it's called Pseudo Dragon, which I love. I love the name of it. And with all the, how can I hold it so you can both see? Ooh, sort of hereish. Sort of hereish. Look at how pretty it is.
Reds and oranges and yellows and browns.
Oh, it's perfect. Perfect. And it is on your Sturdy DK base, which is your BFL. And it's going to be a hat of Squishy Wonder. And I'm very excited. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And as if that wasn't enough, because she's amazing and yet also ridiculous. folks who watched the last couple of episodes and saw some of the prizes for the Blame Dunderknit along will know that Hannah was so kind as to custom make tiny gold stitch markers for the 3 lucky prize winners, and they are complete world exclusives. And yeah, very excited about that. And now I too have a little tiny gold sheet. I'm so excited. I'm going to show you first.
This is where the gold yarn comes from.
I'm going to show you first, and then I'm going to show you, and that means me standing up. But here we go. Look at it, it's a tiny gold sheep, tiny gold sheep. You just get to see my elbow, I'm really sorry.
That's fine.
But, I'm so excited.
It's where all the gold yarn comes from. People don't dye it. It's the rare gold sheep.
I mean, thank you. This is so kind. You did not need to do that.
Well, I know, but still.
Yes.
Right.
So,
let's dive in.
We did. So we will include vlog footage from the wanderings and the filmings and the places. Mine is going to have some interesting white balance issues going on because I was trying to take into account some of the lighting, but the lighting was a bit...
I was not.
The lighting was a bit crazy.
I just switched the camera on and hope for the best, which is honestly how I live my life.
Which is fair. Which is fair. It's a good motto to live by.
Shall we do the matching ones first?
Let's do the matching ones first.
Because that is technically order of purchase.
It is. It is. So the first purchase that we made was having wandered around a couple of the rooms, having spent a little bit of time chatting to Amy Florence downstairs, who had the wonderful Stranded Dye Works booth.
Oh my goodness, it was fantastic.
And we kept getting in the way of everyone who was trying to purchase, so we had to keep moving around and just, you know, standing in the way of the yarn fumes and trying just shuffling past. But that was all good. So we meandered upstairs. We stopped in to see my lovely friend Sue Stratford of the Knitting and Gin. I don't have my bag with me, but Knitting and Gin, you have seen the bags, you have seen the pins, they're adorable. And just next door to Sue of Knitting and Gin was Skein Queen. Skein Queen is a fabulous dyer. She's based in, I think, Berkshire, a little bit up from the M4, and has a myriad of bases. She's been around for a very long time, and she's
retiring from dyeing,
is she?
And she's having one of her, as was assistants, taking over.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
passing on
in
the
a couple of
baton.
days.
I did not know this. But yes, so we were standing merrily squishing some of Skein Queen's skeins, as one does. And our eyes were caught by some behemoth skeins in the corner. And so there might be some coordinating Christmas jumper fun going on here.
I'm so excited.
Now, I don't think Christmas was necessarily front of mind.
Well,
but
no, it happened.
Yeah.
It's red and green.
Exactly.
The ultimate Christmas duo.
Yeah, because certainly in my case, I picked up these two. There were only 2 skeins in the green. Now, the yardage on them is significant. So these are 200 gram skeins, or close to 8 ounce, I want to say. And they are 506 metres, which in yards is a bit more. That's my technical workings.
Same.
But they are 70% Corriedale, 30% Polworth, they're DK weight, and super squishy and lovely and wondrous and perfect for a sweater.
They're huge!
Huge.
It's ridiculous. So, Caroline picked hers out, and we, were trying to find a contrast and whatnot, and whilst we were looking, and Caroline purchased hers, I had not intended to buy it. And then 2 seconds passed, and then I decided I wanted to copy her in the most flattering way. So the Blame Dunderknit along needs to happen again, basically, so I can knit with this, because I blame you a little bit for this.
That's fair. It's fair.
It's true in person as it is on the internet. It's both virtual and physical blame.
I'm on board with this. I'm on board. But these are so squishy.
They
so
are.
So squishy, so soft.
And I don't think they're superwash,
I don't think they are either. And I'm kind of okay with it.
Polworth, I'm more than okay with it.
Kind of okay with it.
Okay,
so yeah, it is the Sonsi base. They don't have specific colours against them.
This is called Naked.
That is called Naked.
Which
on the
also
basis it's undyed, I suspect. But other than that,
these two do not have names.
No. The red ones, the green ones. And I think Ellie of Skein might have followed suit on you as well.
She got red ones.
She did. Because, Ellie in Burgundy, who'd have thought?
I know. Very on brand with purchases.
I mean, yeah. This had to happen.
It's beautiful.
So, we've done almost one loop we've got a sweater quantity under our belt.
Yep. Yep, this was not the plan, by the way. I had not intended on buying that much. But it's so reasonable.
It is very reasonable. So these giant skeins are £24 each.
For a double skein.
Yes. So definitely worth that.
Yeah.
So we continued on our merry way. We got a little bit further. We went into one of the other rooms upstairs. And in our wanderings came across the lovely Dusty Dimples, who has some gorgeous hand dyes. She's based in the UK.
I want to say Birmingham way.
I think Midlands, certainly. That would make sense.
Yeah.
And we ogled and stood and did some gentle fondling. Yeah.
The yarn. The yarn.
Yeah. Should we go first?
Sure. This one, it's on her 75-25 merino and nylon sock, and it's called Nelly Pot. And I'll do this one first. And it's got such gorgeous speckles, and she was too generous because I fondled it and pointed it out and said how much I liked it, and then she said, "Here you go." I was like, "Oh, you didn't have to."
She really didn't have to.
I was going to buy it anyway.
We really were. We really were. Yeah, she was incredibly lovely and generous, and what was amazing was the fact that you were wearing your So Faded sweater, which has a lot of colours that are very similar to this, and so it felt entirely appropriate that that's what we walked away with.
Mint. I was wearing mint.
So pretty.
I was wearing much more knitwear than I am today.
I mean,
knitting is metal. It's kind of related.
It's very related. I like what you've done. And similarly, it's almost as though we scripted this, because you were wearing a mint jumper.
Yeah.
Repped for the one that's mint. I wasn't wearing this colour, but I still picked up this. And this is another beautiful, so this is another sock base of hers. It looks slightly different to yours. Yours might be a high twist base.
I think mine might be a high twist base.
Whereas this is a sort of more standard 4-ply sock base. It is in the You Can Find Me in Cuba colourway. It's a 75-25. It does remind me of iced gingerbread biscuits.
Like
Something
nice
about it.
Christmassy knit.
I think so. Come on. There we go. And again, elbow goodness going on Canon's camera.
I'm admiring your even stitches on my camera because my camera is focused on your elbow.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So there we are. So this is, again, this was a gift. She did not need to do this. You did not need to do this. You're very, very kind and generous.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Bless her.
So pretty.
So pretty. She had the whole family there as well.
She did. She
amazing.
did. And all of them were looking surprisingly upbeat and sprightly for it being a day 2 already of the show. So,
yes.
And while we were stood there, I was listening to the conversation. We were having a lovely chat, and then got massively distracted by these. I just, it was. The problem that I have with these is that they're beautiful, and then you reach out and you touch them and you realise they're an MCN blend, and they're squishy and soft and glorious and lovely.
So soft.
So pretty. And these are her evergreen colourway, and as I say, they're MCN fingering weight. They are the most perfect kind of tealy minty green speckles. Not so minty.
I was gonna say, I can demonstrate if you'd like me
Thank
to.
you so much. Not so minty that I'm going to struggle, because as we all know, mint green is not always my strong point.
It's got enough darker speckles in there to balance out the mintiness.
It's tonal enough to make it wearable. But yeah, I think these are going to be held together and used in a shawl or a cowl or something that goes around my neck, because it will be so soft.
It will be so soft. I just want to stroke my face on it the whole time.
I do have that problem with some yarns, I will say.
Well, when we were stood at Amy's booth later on, she had a no-frills sweater. And I was just stood whilst everyone was chatting and just stroking the sleeve. It was really soft. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's what happened.
It was amazing.
We then, I think, finished a loop, went out, grabbed some lunch, had some lovely lunch. I had a Scotch egg that was the same size as my face.
Before that,
I bought. You did?
I was sent on a mission to be a mule, and Becky had. I'm not taking it up the back, but Becky had requested one of the Plustra bags. I don't know how to pronounce.
I think Plustra is right.
Maybe Plustra. And a cross-body one. And so this was from Knit with Attitude. And she wanted it in the grey, so she's got it in the grey. And Becky, it's going to go in the post to you, along with the tote bag.
which is awesome.
They're a duo.
Yes.
Yes.
And they had some gorgeous bags
Oh my
in terms of the
goodness.
colours of them.
I almost got one, but maybe I'll go back at EYF and
They'll be back.
reassess.
They had a really pretty mustardy yellow. They had a sort of caramel goldy one. There was a pretty
I liked
berry
the pale
pink.
blue.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
And I also had a teal one.
Yeah, good colours.
Mm.
But possibly also available at Knit with Attitude's web shop. So
They are
we'll
usually.
try and find links and
Yes.
do stuff and things.
Get things sorted.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we went out for lunch.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a respite.
Yeah.
Lovely
Giant
picture.
Scotch egg.
Yes, giant Scotch egg. Lovely picture of Hannah on my Instagram stories, blending in with the sofa that she was sitting against, which was excellent.
That jumper matches a surprising amount of things. First of all, I noticed with this mug
It's true.
in the morning,
It's true.
and then with the background of the who knew?
Yeah,
Mint greens everywhere.
it is. All over.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wear any of it. None of it.
Mint greens all around.
And then we girded our loins, I was going to say. We went back in.
Sure.
Back in.
Let's
for
go
more.
with that.
Why not? Why not? And in wandering round the Great Hall downstairs, bumped into a few people, had a good few chats. I think we ended up following around Suffolk Socks for quite a lot of the time, just kind of cropping up and saying hi.
Yeah.
But one of the vendors we stopped at was on the stage there, and she is Third Vault Yarns. And yeah, I think we were on a similar emotional wavelength when this happened.
It's between this or the DK, and I went with this one.
Yeah, a little bit of blurple that needed to happen.
I hadn't intended to buy anything, and then the longer we stood and chatted, to I don't know who the owner of the business is.
I need to find out her name.
Me too.
We had a lovely chat with her. So
Yes.
she dyes yarns that are based on I think sort of sci-fi and board games and other associated excellent means of nerdery.
She had a Dalek money belt on, and it made my day.
That was amazing. She had a beautiful sweater on as well.
She did.
That she'd been designing, I think,
Mhm.
which was a sort of split back, cables offset down one side, and then a sort of contrast trim.
Yeah.
It was really pretty.
Really
and I think she
pretty.
mentioned she's in the works of getting that designed and published, and
I
again,
have to follow her on
links in
Instagram
places. Yes.
Stalk.
Yes. I was squishing a couple of different options.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going with this one because it's called Caroline DK. That's the name
It's
of the
literally
base.
got her name on it.
Yeah, this is it.
Not even figuratively. It is literally there.
It's Caroline Dunderknit. It's Caroline DK. It's me.
I'm sorry, fate defined.
Exactly. Exactly. And the colourway is Sear,
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful blurply, purpley wonderfulness. Pop it up here. And you can see it too. We're working with slightly odd lighting in here today, so apologies for that. I haven't set up my floor lights or anything, but
It's casual.
it's all good.
Oh, my tummy just rumbled.
Oh yeah. We're going out for breakfast soon, so it'll be good. So yeah, this one here.
And then this is on her companion 4-ply, which is 100% superwash merino, and this is called Mycelium. And it's just kind of me in a skein,
It really
if anyone has watched the podcast for a long time. My hair has been all of these colours at once on many occasions.
It's so
And it's
pretty.
just, yes. I
Love it.
approve. I don't know what it's going to be, but that's okay.
Well, we thought it could be a hat,
Yeah,
potentially, at least
a
with the
potential hat.
4-ply scope.
I would have to make sure that it would be when my hair is not blue hat.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel we could just wear them like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Smile for a thumbnail. Amazing.
Excellent. And then
You've got another.
I do. So I have this terrible affliction whereby if there are beautiful samples of patterns that I've wanted to knit and they are hanging on the wall, and I do emphasise very specifically, kind of hanging quite high up. Such
Very
that-
much on display.
Yes, such
Yeah.
that I can see them from a distance
Yeah.
and become obsessed at point of first sight.
Yeah.
There is a strong guarantee that I'm going to come in with my wallet and just make it
Throw
rain.
your card at people.
And this particular
Less
instance,
aggressively.
done with love, affectionate flinging. But it was exactly this instance that drew me into the Walcott yarn stand. So Carmen, who also has the store, a yarn store over in Bath, has Walcott yarns. There were some beautiful colours on display, and there is a specific colour of Walcott yarns that has had my heart for a very long time.
before she shows the colour of yarn, and if you're watching this on my channel and you don't watch Caroline, then you'll very quickly learn.
Yeah.
But, Dunder viewers,
Mm-hmm.
we're making that thing. Just very quickly, take a second, pause the video, type in the comment what colour you think it might potentially possibly be.
I mean...
And then we'll check and see if you're right.
I genuinely hate that I'm this predictable. But I am...
Consistent is the word.
This is
consistent.
True. This is true.
It's not predictable, it's consistent.
I am going to put a little swooshy thumbnail. It's going to come in from this side, I think, to show you the pattern that we're talking about here.
I can't guarantee I'll do that.
There'll be a picture or a link. There'll be a link. And it's the Kuru sweater. It's in Lane magazine. I don't know the name of the designer. It is an all-over cabled sweater of beautifulness. Beautifulness. And it had been knit up in the Walcott Yarns Opus. It's like I'm a floating head. It's just... Oh, I'm obscenely predictable. It's the goldenrod colourway, which we're entertained by enough as it is. But it is this perfect caramelly hayloft gold. I'm making that clear for those in the back, and I do mean my knit group, who still maintain this as brown. How very dare you. It is a beautiful, like, burnt toffee caramelly gold colour, and it's going to be divine. And everyone who has touched this yarn says they can't believe how soft it is.
It's deceptively soft as a skein, because it's Falkland Merino baby alpaca, 100% awesome, which I cannot disagree with. And
wouldn't dream of it.
It's beautiful.
It is stunning. It's stunning.
Because it looks like it should be quite woolly.
And I think it's the alpaca's slight hairiness to it.
It's similar kind of looking. And this is soft.
Yes.
By comparison to a lot of yarns, but it's not like
buttery.
Yeah.
So yeah. This oops.
Oh no.
Calm down. Yeah. It had to happen. So like I say, if you have pretty samples, I am a sucker for them. Sucker.
As a yarn dyer, that's a good to know. And then we came back.
We did. We were done.
We were done. We went out for dinner.
We had a lovely meal.
We had a wonderful meal. And then we came back, and Caroline said, Hannah, I have this yarn. I don't think I'm going to knit with it. Are you interested in it? We made a deal. A very generous deal.
Well, so anyone who's seen my channel for a little bit may know that I knit a no-frills sweater last year. It is in a mauvey pink colour, and I love it. However, I had been trying to find the exact combination that I wanted for quite a long time, and it just so happened that at a previous Unravel I picked up a combination I thought was going to work, and as time went on I was less and less convinced it was going to work for me and my colouring, and it just so happened that...
It's so beautiful! I'm just getting them. I'm going to get them all out. Cool, let's start with this one. So this is by, thank you. This is by Skein Queen also. I pass that to you in the most unflattering manner.
I mean, this is fine.
Kind of hurled it at you.
This is fine. So
too excited. Like that you are craving it like a newborn.
I mean, sure. Sure. It's very pretty.
It's a really nice lilac colour with speckles of beautiful.
It is, and it's a merino silk as well. So there's a little bit of silk in it too.
Very luxurious. Then, there are these little floofy things, which is her vintage lilac on her floof base, which is kid mohair and silk, and literally the most woolen vine mauve. Except for the one that she dyes herself, obviously.
Only slight exception.
But, oh my god.
And we're back. My camera decided to stop.
It's because point and shoot cameras only film for a maximum amount of time, because otherwise they have to pay higher tax and be classed as video cameras.
Oh, things
the
you
more
do not know.
Kind of want to put that rainbow thing in. But yes,
we'll make it happen.
Thank you. This is going to be a no-frills sweater. And I wanted to knit one for such a long time.
I'm so
happy.
happy.
I didn't think I'd be able to. And now I can.
You can.
And I tried on Caroline's yesterday, and I now want to live in it. It's so soft.
It's so soft. It's the warmest thing, which, considering it's knit out of fingering weight and lace weight held together,
surprising.
It shouldn't be as warm as it
is. But also very light.
Yes.
Warm but light. Good combo.
Very good combo.
But yeah, So that was an unexpected addition, but one that I'm very welcome to embrace. Oh, look at these speckles. It's got like teeny bits. Okay, I'll stop.
She's so clever.
She is so clever.
So clever. So all in all,
that was our
day. We had a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
And saying hello to people was fabulous. It was long. Quite a lot of group hugging that went on, which I enjoyed.
Good times all round.
Indeed. And yeah.
No complaints.
None at all.
I would recommend Unravel to people who are relatively near. I think it's one of the few that are in the south.
Yes.
From what people have said. It's in Surrey, in a place called Farnham, for those that aren't aware. And yes, it's a really good one. I feel like it's a good first yarn festival.
I would agree.
There's a lot there, there's a lot of variety, but it's not too crowded. Friday was apparently busier than the Saturday, which surprised me, but it was half term. But you actually have time to like walk around and look at everything, because sometimes EYF, it can get a little bit frantic. Yeah. And stress inducing.
Exactly. But no, it was really lovely. I think it was my first actually, but years ago. So I think I first went to it with my knit group. And really, really enjoyed it. And obviously since have been to many other festivals.
Yeah. But old hand. Yeah.
Old hand. Good mix.
Yes.
Of vendors and lovely people. And all round fun and squishing.
It was a good day. I'm really glad that I came to visit. Thanks for inviting me.
Not at all. Thank you for coming.
Mainly to wake up to this 2 days in a row.
Oh, you mean, right, sure.
I mean, and also this. But I didn't wake up to you.
No, this is true. We should quell any rumours before they start.
Not that kind of party.
No. Mario, you're safe. It's fine. Just for the reassurance, you understand. And so I think we're going to go out and grab some breakfast.
Yes!
And enjoy a little bit more knitting, casually, before Hannah so sadly has to go home.
How sad.
But it's been fun.
I now have to try and fit this in my bag.
I mean, we'll make it happen. It'll be fine.
Okay. Right.
But yeah, we'll be doing podcasting and all the other things soon. Possibly I might be doing it at the same time as this, in which case that was redundant. But yeah, good.
I'll be doing it soon.
And we'll see you all later.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye. So there you have it. That was Unravel. Those were some of my squishy, delightful wares that I picked up. And again, a massive thank you, not only to Hannah, because it was a delight to have you here, but also to every single person who came up, who said hello at Unravel, who gave me hugs, gladly received hugs. I was delighted for that. It was so wonderful to meet you in person. I just genuinely, it made my day. I've been going to Unravel for quite a few years now. Obviously, this is my first year attending, having had the podcast in tow, and it was just wonderful to spend time connecting to even more fabulous people that I've had the chance to in previous years. And so thank you so much. You made my day. It was really special, and I look forward to meeting up with you again at some point in the future. For those of you going to EYF, it would be lovely to say hello again over there. But yes, I think that's about it for this week's episode. So as ever, show notes in the description box below. Over in the Ravelry group, you can find us by searching for Knitting Vicariously in the groups tab there, or indeed on the Knitting Vicariously podcast account on Instagram. You can also use the Knitting Vicariously hashtag to share anything that is related to the podcast. I would be delighted to see some of the things that you're working on or that you crave working on. And yes, other than that, it only really remains for me to wish you a wonderful rest of day, rest of week. I hope your knitting is keeping you happy and fulfilled, but if for whatever reason it isn't, I hope you have a chance to knit vicariously. Keep on keeping on, and I will see you again very soon. Bye! So, we're just standing in Amy's booth and talking about the fact that we think it's a bit rude. She's
good at everything.
She's good at everything.
The yarn is beautiful. She's got mad skills and can make loads of it. And is a really nice person.
That's kind of a dick move, if I'm honest, Amy.
You're a bit of an ass. Leave something for the rest of us.
Just saying.
I'm 100% jealousy.
Just saying.
Talking about you literally behind your back.